All right. What is up, everybody? Oh, wait. I'm going to transition scenes one more time. How's it going, everybody? I am excited to be here today. I hope you guys are excited as well. I've got a very special guest. I've got my friend here, Mike Bianca, who I'm going to introduce before I undeafen him. So you're completely silent for now. You can't stop me from saying all the nice things about you. But Mike Bianca and I actually met through a Bro Army player named Ethan Vines. And Ethan Vines is originally out of Nashville area and has been played, I think, with. I'm not exactly sure on the details regarding that, but has been involved with Mike Bianca's camp and his methodology for paintball for quite some time. And I remember one of the first things he ever said to me, Ethan Vines, was talking about how smart Mike Bianca was. And so I remember him talking to me about him and just how methodical he was with paintball, how intelligent he was. And I'm super excited to have him here on the show. Let me unmute myself here for a second. Welcome. How are you, Mike?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me. This is once again technology. It's pretty amazing.
The fact that we live however many miles away from each other and yet we can have this awesome conversation. I'm pretty excited about that.
Absolutely.
Well, like I was saying to the stream, you and I met through Ethan Vines. I think it was originally at the Sunshine State Major in like 2021. And I just was floored at how much you knew, the way that you looked at paintball, and the things that you were willing to share with pretty much a complete stranger. I was very taken aback by that in a very good way, very humbled by that. And again, Ethan Vines had nothing but amazing things to say about you, and I knew that this was a guy I wanted to keep close, because if you want to get better at paintball, you got to be friends with Mike Bianca, in my opinion. So,
oh my goodness, stop.
But that's my end of the story. I think I'm sure there's quite a few people in here that may know you in real life. I've met you at events, but I think it would be fun to hear just a real brief story of your involvement with paintball, like when you first started, how you got involved with the Northern Hurricanes organization, and how you ultimately became their coach. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And as much as you can do is briefly, right? Because we got some good things to talk about.
I'll do my best. 29 years. So I first played paintball in 1993. I was a student at Mississippi State University, and they had a paintball club there. I just moved out of the dorm and moved in with 3 other guys. 2 of these guys were into paintball, and I had heard about it, right? You'd seen the magazines on the shelves and et cetera. And they had a paintball club at the university. It was sponsored by one of the professors, an engineering professor. And I got invited to go out one time, and we went out to this land out in Houston, Mississippi somewhere. And I remember it was an outlaw type paintball thing. And the professor brought these CO2 tanks, these giant scuba tanks of CO2, and we didn't have chroners or anything like that. And I remember my first game. It was a lot of fun. We're out there, and I took a lick, 400 plus easy, because it punched through my fatigues, and I still have the scar today, perfectly circular scar.
Oh my gosh!
On my thigh, and I bled down to my socks for the rest of the day, and that fueled the competitive nature in me. And all I want to do is get back out and put a hole in that dude's clothes. And so that's kind of how it started. I was introduced to Hyperball, I think in 97 or 98. And that's when I really met in the area, the really good guys, the guys with the automags and the autocockers and the angels. And I got in with those guys and kind of took off. And so, I've played 3-man, 5-man, 7-man, 10-man. I've played in the woods. I've played scenario. I've played tournament ball. I've played regional, local, and professional. And trying to consolidate that all together. There's a lot of stuff in there.
Absolutely.
Ended up in Birmingham, Alabama, where I played with Red Energy. Met guys like Zach Wake, Kevin Fillers, and Adam Smith. Those guys, those cats, and they introduced me to a whole new world and how tournament paintball should be played. And then myself and a good friend, Mike McGowan, started the Birmingham Prime program in, I think, October of, I guess that'd be 2009. And then our first season as a team was in 2010, and we competed in X-Ball CFOA. X-Ball, shout out to the Carolina crew. I understand that league is still going.
Nice.
And we built this grassroots program, and through that program, we played nationally. We got pretty competitive, and I met really great people like Matt Sossman, Mike Paxson, Shane Pastana, Grayson Goff.
Oh, cool.
And obviously Paul Richards. And I just shut my mouth and opened my eyes and opened my ears and just listened, and learned a lot through those years. So, borrowed from a lot of those great leaders and great players. And then after, and I coached 1 or 2, 3 actually of the Hurricanes on Prime. And, I became good friends with all those guys. Drew Bell and Britt Simpson, a lot of those guys from the Hurricanes today, they played with the Rocket Kids. We chewed a lot of the same dirt, played against them a lot. And, after Prime disappeared, I went and hung out with, the royalty program in California. Shane Pastana started showing me the ropes, and just kind of fell into it. My wife got onto me and she said, hey, you need to start writing this stuff down. So I did. We started this silly thing called Zen and the Art of Paintball. It literally started as, hey, I'm just going to get my thoughts down. No one's going to care. And next thing I know, people were caring. And I got a phone call to coach CEP. And I believe they were second to last in the division at the time. And so I came in and coached them and for 2 events at the end of 2018, I believe. They made their first Sunday, that first event, and then we made top 4 our second event at World Cup. And then they called me and said, hey, we'd like you to coach us for the season. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And my wife said, you keep talking about the process. You keep talking about this system and the process and this and that. If people just follow these concepts. She goes, what better team to prove it with? And so I said, okay. So I coached them. Next thing I know, we won a division title.
That's awesome.
And I got a phone call right after, a couple of weeks after World Cup. Might have been January. And of course, one of my best friends plays for the Hurricanes, was playing for the Hurricanes. His name's Aaron Pate. And he called me up and had the captain, Stu Ridgel, call me. And they said, hey, we're this pretty good team, and we think we're missing one piece. And that's a coach. And I told him, honest to God, Steven, I told him, I said, you guys don't need me. I mean, you guys are already a solid program. You already got all your stuff together. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, we'll come down and we'll see how it goes. I had done a clinic for him actually in 2017, right before Chicago. Funny story. I obviously did a good job because they knocked Prime out in the quarterfinals when we played them.
That's got to be painful.
It was. I'm like, never again. I'm never coaching, never doing another clinic for a competitor.
For a rival,
again.
yeah.
No, went down and met those guys, and the best way to put this, Stephen, is they were all men. They were just men, and they were serious, and they took it serious. And I said, I think this might be a good fit. It'll be my last time. I'll coach them to get them to the pro division, right? Because we were semi-pro at the time. Mm-hmm. Get them to pro, and then I'll retire. That'll be that. And unfortunately, we got to the pro spot. And
you can't quit yet.
Gracious, we became such good friends and so close. We said, okay, let's do this another season. So here we are.
That's awesome. Well, I actually didn't realize until you and I had talked that we played each other in that World Cup of 20, like you said, I think 2018. I think the score, I think we either tied or lost by 1. And you would probably remember better than I don't know. But that was a fun series. That was CEP's a great camp. There was a solid squad when you took them on. So that was a lot of fun to play you guys. And just to see the beginnings of the Mike Bianca way of playing. So, then we've obviously, for people who've been around on the community long enough know that we went out and scrimmaged you guys prior to, was it World Cup as well? I think it was prior to World Cup we had scrimmaged.
Was it prior to World Cup or prior to Philly?
We didn't play Philly, so I think...
No, that's right. So it was World Cup.
Yeah,
because didn't we end up drawing you?
No, we drew you guys...
No, we
we played you guys in Sunshine State, and then Ethan had a conversation with you afterwards asking if we could come scrimmage you guys, which was very gracious of you guys to offer because you had smashed us in that series like 6-1 or 7-1. You mercy ruled us. I can't remember what. But
it's paintball, bro. You know? But you'll smash somebody the next day, you know?
Sure. Yeah, it was, but I was super grateful for the opportunity. Came out, and sure enough, everything Ethan had said was true. You're just a wonderful, wonderful coach, wonderful person, and was really grateful to come out and play you guys. But obviously the title of this
Ethan are too kind.
We'll blame Ethan for that one. But so obviously the title of the stream is Get Better with Mike Bianca. And so a lot of the questions I want to ask are really related to different stages of people's paintball career, let's call it, right? So people getting into the paintball, some pieces of advice there, and then obviously moving up those tiers of divisions. And we're going to make the assumption, for the sake of this conversation, we're going to make the assumption that who we're talking to is the people that want to get better. I imagine that everybody in here in the live stream are people who actually want to improve and get better. It's not necessarily that they may want to go pro, but that they just want to improve and be better, right? I think that's definitely a valiant and worthy. So the question I have for you is, what advice would you give people just getting into speedball in terms of improvement? What would be the very first thing you tell somebody to do?
Play. Play as much as you can, and play against more experienced, more seasoned, better players as often as you can. Don't be afraid of how you look. Don't be afraid about any of that. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Ask other players questions. Go to your local field. Get to know the local guys. Get to know the local refs. Get to know the local owners. Get to know the movers and shakers in your local, scene. That's what I did. Coming out of the woods, a lot of the teams wouldn't pick me up because I didn't have an autococker, an Adriel, and an automag or something like that. I don't think that matters today. The paintball community and the paintball today, it's just everything's on this. Everyone's talks about, your markers. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Planet Eclipse is the best marker made, but there's a lot of beginner stuff out there that can do everything that these other guns can do. So don't be worried about the equipment so much as getting out there and getting the experience, getting the reps, getting shot, shooting people, and asking dumb questions. The dumbest question is the one not asked. So you got to get out there and, just get out there and play, you know?
Absolutely.
And be a good guy. By the way, this is something that I do. I apologize, Steven. This is my little message for everyone out there. Be a good guy. Being the bad guy is easy.
Yeah.
Right. So when I first came into paintball, let me tell you, paintball attracted a lot of jackwagons. So
and that was true, right? When I started, and that wasn't in like 2005. That was true then. So
there you go. So a lot of jackwagons, right? But put good back into the world, right? I promise you to get returned. So be that good guy out at the field. If you're one of the experienced guys, help one of the inexperienced guys. If you're one of the inexperienced guys, try find that good guy, right? But yeah, it's an expensive sport, so understand the cost. Understand, they have the saying, anything worth doing well is worth, anything worth doing is worth doing well, right? So I believe that anything worth my time is worth doing right.
Yeah.
So if you're going to put the time in, right, don't screw around. Enjoy paintball. Enjoy it. Take the time to learn it, understand it. She'll usually be pretty good back to you if you. She's a harsh mistress.
For sure.
Paintball's a harsh mistress, but she'll treat you well if you do it right.
Yeah, and actually that's a perfect segue into talking about this. I feel like there's a rut, at least in the West Coast. I don't know how it is over there in your neck of the woods, but in my neck of the woods, there's a massive pool of players in Division 4. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because obviously people get kicked really quickly out of Division 5 and Division 4, and I've broken this down in another video, but I feel like Division 4 is the beginnings of your decision on whether or not you want to commit to paintball. So that's what makes sense as to why there's so many people in Division 4. But for those that want to actually get out of Division 4 and either join a team that's playing in Division 3 and doing well, or trying to push as a team to get out of Division 4, what would your advice be to those people? Because I feel like that, you know, if you're gonna do anything, do it right, has everything to do with Division 4 players. Because a lot of times the people are just kind of going through the motions, just playing paintball without thinking about it. So in my opinion, it would be to like critically apply, you know, yourself to the sport, think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. But what would you say to those people who are trying to get out of Division 4?
Individually?
Yeah, let's say it's easy,
Yeah.
much more so individually. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Say the lowest division you can play as long as you can. Stay in that division until you win. Seriously, and you know, I've seen it time and time again. Players chase a rank, and I've never really understood it. It's an ego thing, I guess. I don't know. I could probably write you a dissertation on a psychological and sociological perspective on that. But then paintball's always been that way, I guess, to an extent. Like we were saying, it draws a lot of big personalities. If you generally want to progress in this sport and you want to be competitive, you have to put in the time. Just like any sport, I know it sounds cliche, but I'll say it. I'm going to get burned, roasted for this one, I'm sure. Paintball's life, right? It like any sport, paintball teaches that time, hard work, sacrifice, perseverance, competitiveness, endurance, intelligence, respect. These are elements that are required to be successful in life as a whole, and to make things worthwhile, right? So I don't see why paintball should be any different. So I would go ahead and say that, yeah, work hard. I mean, how do you get out of Division 4? Practice, practice, practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Don't be afraid to lose, right? Don't be afraid to be humbled. If you lose, learn from it. Move on. By the way, I'm cognitive of the fact that I'm saying my wife gets on.
Oh, you're fine. I didn't. Now everybody's
so
going to be aware of that.
A little bit, and my eyes start rolling. It's because I can feel my wife's eyes off screen going, "You're saying too much." I promise you, if you'll learn more from losing than winning. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't just be about winning or losing, for that matter. It should be about teamwork. It should be about discipline. That's a word that's not used a lot. You really don't start hearing it until semi-pro, right? If you're worth anything, it should be about sportsmanship. That I realize that's not what cool cats say these days. And you gotta crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of their women. But
that's a beautiful Bible verse quote for us, right? That's perfectly placed.
That's Conan the Barbarian.
Oh,
actually.
There you go. I was thinking of Lamentation.
Read a book, people. Everyone read books.
Sorry, my bad.
No, it's all good. I'm picking on you. But we could do the biblical thing too. I wear my faith on my sleeve. That's it. That's another thing that's helped me over the years, right? So I realize that it's not cool to be the sportsman guy, to be the good guy. But I do believe in old values, value of working together, moving towards a common goal and being respectful about it. So yeah, I think if you put good back into the world, you'll get it back. So work hard, and put in the work, be disciplined. Understand it's going to suck. Mm-hmm. It's going to be hard, and it's not easy. Climbing, that's one of the most difficult jumps, right? D4 to D3, and keeping that team together.
Oh, yeah.
During that jump when you're getting smashed a couple of times, right? Everyone has a great plan until you meet the enemy.
Or you get punched in the face, as they say.
Yeah, that's Tyson, right?
Yeah.
So,
okay, so that's
individually.
Yeah. Well, and certainly we could talk about team. I think the same would probably apply because, it's the dynamics of keeping a team together when maybe some people are doing better than the other, and maybe people have egos that are getting out of line. I think that could be its own a separate conversation. So perhaps for the sake of this one, let's say just from an individual perspective, what can a person do? And because I think the team dynamics that come into play when people start moving up, like you said, it's very complicated when you move, and some people felt like, well, I think I can play at this division, but I don't think this guy can play at this division. Then all of a sudden it starts to collapse, and there's a whole issue there in and of itself. So let's move on now to Division 3 then, which I think, I don't know how pros feel. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I think there's a real delineation between each division. I know that being really way up there at the top, it could look like, oh, they're all kind of bad, like there's not really anything that's separate. They're all just bad. But I really do think that there's very strong delineations between each division. So certainly the advice that we would give to somebody in Division 4 would be true of, we would assume they would have done that thing in Division 3. But then what happens at Division 3? Because the jump, in my opinion, the jump from top Division 3 to even bottom Division 2 is quite big. And even more so in Division 2 to semi-pro. That to me is the largest jump in my experience. I haven't played at the pro division, obviously, but that division from playing in Division 2 to semi-pro is a massive gap that people don't fully appreciate in my experience. And so what would you say to somebody in Division 3 then? Obviously, taking the advice that you've already given to Division 4.
That's a great question. First of all, I agree with you. I think the delineation between divisions is significant. I will tell you this. I still watch D4. I still watch D3. I still watch D2 matches. I think you can learn a lot.
Agreed.
From watching paintball. I watch tape a lot. I make my guys watch tape a lot. And sometimes it's not always the pros. You can learn a tremendous amount from people. Let me tell you something. It's interesting when you see it, like you go to a scrimmage at a local field and some D5 team will go out there and they'll push the stuff in of a D3 team. And the D3 team standing there going, what just happened? Yeah. And what it is the D5 doesn't care. They're not supposed to win, and they're going to go crazy. They're like, hey, our best chance here is to take ground and get in their face and take the fight to them. Because I've written a couple of articles on it, right? Teaching, so I'm going to go off on a tangent here now that you got me going this, especially about D3, because I believe I wrote an article called Speed Kills. And you can't, if I can get a team of aggressive players, young, whether they're D5, D4, whatever, that's a gold mine in paintball. Because teaching aggression, listen, if it's already intuitive, it's already instinctual in them, oh man, you've got a gold mine there. Because if you can teach if they've already got the aggression and they've got the athleticism, I can teach you how to play paintball. Mm-hmm. So, but I've got to make sure you've got that you're fearless, right? Because then we can teach you to shift gears. Mm-hmm. And we can teach you to play fast, play slow, mix it up, right? So I think to your point for the D3 players, right? I think that the D3, one thing I'll say is this, a top level D4 team can be very competitive in D3. And we're talking national here. I'm not talking regional or local, right? Yeah. I'm talking national. I do believe a top tier D3 team can be very competitive in D2. And I believe the top 2 D2 teams can be very competitive in semi-pro. Now, that's starting to change. You're starting to see something here because the semi-pro divisions, you always had the same, for a long time there, you always had the same top 6, right? It's a lot like the pros, right? You got the same top 8 teams always, right? And in semi-pro, you always had the same names for a couple of years there. And anyone outside of that top 5, top 6, it was a crapshoot. You didn't know where they were going to end up. D3, you always had those teams, that there was just this dominant team that first event. They like Prime had a team once where they went to an event. They won the Philly Open in D3, or was it D4? I can't remember. Anyway, no, it was D3 because it was a race to 4. They lost 1 point the entire event. 4-0, 4-0, 4-0, 4-0. 1 point the entire, just destroyed people. And then went to the next event and didn't make Sunday. So I think what you're seeing, the disparity between the different divisions, who wants it more? Who's getting out there? A lot of people talk about money. They'll talk about paint, right? I'm going to pick the team that shot 100 cases over the team that shot 20 cases. But at the same time, I'm going to pick the team that had a smart practice and really worked on their strengths, enforced their strengths, and recognized and focused on their weaknesses as well, versus the team that goes out there and just grinds gears for 8 hours and doesn't retain anything.
Yeah.
So I think that individually, right, the key to any individual, whether it's D4, D3, D2, work with those higher level players. Get on somebody's hip. Don't be afraid to ask. Find players that push you, right? That's the key to a lot of this. I could go into like all this. I really could. I could go into a lot of like detail about training and how you should be training and why you should be training this way. A lot of the guys that have known me for long time, Stephen, they'll sit there and say, "Oh, great, Bianca's going to start talking about shooting pie plans." And there is something to that, right? There is something to working on the fundamentals, just like basketball.
Yeah.
You got to have the jump shot. You got to have the dribbling. You got to have the footwork. It's no different in paintball. The only difference is as there's a disparity the higher you get in those fundamentals. You get into pro, everybody can snap, everybody can long ball. Everybody's usually quick, right?
Yeah.
Everybody can make reads usually, right? Well, maybe not everybody, right? But you'll see that. That's how the teams set themselves apart, whether it's the top D3 teams, the top D2 teams. These are the guys who are putting in the work, who are going out on a Wednesday night, who are the first to get to the field, the last to leave the field. And once the team's done practicing, they're out there doing fundamental drills. They're doing the footwork. They're doing the cardio. They're making the snapshot. They're trying to put the ball on the target, at 150 feet consistently. Right? That's the goal. Individually, find what you suck at, recognize it, admit it, and sit there and say, I'm not really good at this, and work on it. And then also recognize your own strengths and say, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I'm going to shore that up too. I don't know if that answers your question.
No,
or what
absolutely.
You're looking for,
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's obviously lots of different ways to, at least in my opinion, there's lots of different ways to tackle, we could say, climbing, right? Climbing the divisions, which I don't want that to be like a misnomer, because I agree with you. I don't think you should try to. I think Tyler Harmon put it once that like learn the lessons that you need to learn in each division, because I think that's really valuable. But one thing that I have told people is the easiest way to learn paintball to begin with is to play the same position over and over and over again and learn paintball from that position. And then you will quickly reach a hurdle or a plateau where you start to realize I am stuck in either my bunker or I keep dying in this specific scenario and I don't know why. And that's where you need to shift. You need to change positions. You need to get a different perspective of the field. A lot of times my advice to people is play the number one, play the front guy first. It's a very straightforward job. It teaches you aggression. Well, hopefully you already have the aggression, but it's a place for you to exercise that aggression and learn the bounds and limits of that. And then scoot back, play the guy behind him and realize what it feels like to be the guy that needs to support the dude in front of you, right? And then so on and so forth, and move even further back from that when you start reaching other plateaus. And I think the way that I've taught about divisional paintball is that I think Division 2 is the first division that you start to play proper, correct paintball. I think anything below that, I've always said that if you're the strongest player individually speaking, like mechanically, fundamentally speaking, you can win a tournament, or you can make it, not win a tournament, I should say. You can massively influence the outcomes of your games in Division 4. No questions asked. If you're hands down the best gunfighter, than anybody else on the field, you can massively influence your games. It doesn't necessarily mean that you will single-handedly win, because obviously it's a team sport. Anything can happen. But I think that Division 4 is the Wild West. As long as you've got great fundamentals, you can do really well in Division 4, and it's about refining those fundamentals. When you get to Division 3, that's when you start to either a team that has a smart coach can heavily influence the team's outcome, or you have smart players. And if you have both, you're probably playing Division 2. But if you have one or the other, you're probably playing Division 3, and that's where you'll see a lot of player coaches that have a lot of experience, or you'll see, outside like pro players coming down to coach Division 3, so on and so forth. And then in my opinion, and I've said this for a long time, I think Division 2 is where you start to get to correct paintball, where people understand the concepts of the number twos behind you protect the guys in front, you wrap on the outside of the field, you contain and collapse on your teammate, on your opponents, you squeeze them, so on and so forth. You don't let them take the ground that you just killed them out of, and it's about being able to execute on those on the basic principles of paintball. Whoever executes better, in my opinion, is who ultimately wins Division 2. When you get into semi-pro, in my experience, limited, albeit, I think that semi-pro is that first division where metagaming and outthinking what your opponents are going to do is where it comes into play. Because certainly there are teams in Division 2 that those you have to worry about that. Like, I think the Killers for a long time before they moved was a team that probably metagamed their opponents and did really well as a result of that, because their opponents weren't doing that. Austin, Notorious, now moving up, I think was also another team that did well at that. But like, as soon as a team starts to think about, okay, they just did this previous point, that means we need to do this, instead of just going out and doing the same thing that's always worked, because you'll get countered really quickly by a good Division 2 team or even a semi-pro team. But semi-pro is that division, in my experience, where as soon as you get there, you've got to not just think, okay, both number twos have to have their guns up. The number 3 always has their gun up. They usually stay back center. The front guys go as wide and far as they can. You will just crumble in semi-pro if you play true, methodical, straightforward paintball. You have to change it up. You have to do crazy things based on what your opponents are doing. You have to be willing to give up a lot of ground on one side because you plan to punch the other one really hard, and so on and so forth. But that's just my limited experience and the way that I've interpreted watching paintball. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
No, I do actually. There's a lot there. First of all, what did you say? You said metagaming?
Yeah, mind gaming, metagaming. Yeah.
I love it. I love the term. I'm going to start using it. I'm stealing it. So one thing that I certainly agree with you on this, and that is I want paintball players. I don't want a snake player. I don't want a Dorito player. I don't want a back player, right? I want paintball players. Yeah. Now, that doesn't always work, right? You will have specialists, and it's good to have specialists, right? I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, look at Chad George, look at Mouse, right? But I do believe that if you were to take them and push them over to the Dorito side of the field, they'd be perfectly fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because they're athletes and they've got the solid fundamental foundation. They're great communicators. So I agree with you on that front, right? Play different spots, get as much experience on the field, on the different sides of the field, everywhere on the field in different positions as possible. It's a great way to increase the learning curve. Now, regarding that metagaming, I love that term, by the way. I think you're right. I will tell you that something I do is very similar to what you were talking about. I'm statistical, and I look for tendencies and probability. So it's easy. It's not easy. It does take some practice, but I think you nail that with the D2, the counter punching. All of that becomes about, okay, they just did this. We have to counter this. One of the things I think is a strength for the Hurricanes, right, is the fact that we're able to sit there and say, okay, we've done this, they've done this, and they've done this. If I'm them, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I would counter it. Mm-hmm. And it's contingencies. It's just a lot of contingencies, and it's the main goal. To your point, the main goal of a coach, and we'll get into this later. I'm sure you'll have questions, but I did want to get this out.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if this is even still on topic. My job as a coach is to put my players into the best position to succeed. So based off what the other team's showing me, I'm going to leverage my players' strengths, whether it be their laning, their speed, their gunfighting, their craftiness, what have you. And I'm going to leverage that to the game plan to counter the tendencies and what the other team has shown me statistically. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think that's what you mean by metagaming, is taking in data and studying that data quickly, and then coming up with a counter equation, so to speak. So we'll go ahead and say that. But yes, I think you're spot on. I think you do see D2, right? I think, to your point, the team who makes the least amount of mistakes.
Yep. Exactly.
right?
Yep. I
So,
said that before too.
And
Yeah.
you're right about D2. D2, you're starting to see the serious stuff. Now you've kind of cut through a little bit. Now you've got those players. You're like, hey, I'm pretty serious about this. I'd like to take it further. That's that D2. Semi-pro, those are those guys that are thinking, okay, I'm they're that amateur golfer, right? Who wants to get on the circuit, right? They're putting the money in, they're putting the time in.
Yeah.
They're practicing that swing. They're getting out there as off to the driving range as often as possible. So maybe golf isn't the best analogy, but well, they're both expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're spot on. I don't think anything you said is inaccurate or wrong. I think probably 90% of paintballers would agree with you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. It's just something that I think it's just something to consider, because a lot of time when I get asked what should I put my time towards if I want to get better, and asking, finding out which division they play in, it usually results in work on your fundamentals, work on your game sense, work on your awareness. And I delineate game sense and awareness, but we don't have to get into that. But like I think semi-pro players, one of the things that makes them each individual player really good in semi-pro is that they all have, for the most part, an awareness of what's going on outside of themselves. I think Division 2, that's starting to develop. I think that starts to blossom, especially as you get higher in Division 2. But when you are in semi-pro, all 5 of those players know what all 5 of the other players are supposed to be doing, and what they're going to do based on what they see in front of them. So if you eliminate 2 players, if you kill both players out on the Doritos side, everybody knows what to do in that situation. You don't have people who all of a sudden, start going crazy on the snake side and try to make a big game-winning play. It's like, no, we're pushing the Dorito side. That's our advantage,
Well, I'd argue that maybe not every semi-pro player
I give a lot of credence, but I do agree with you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and that's what was somewhat surprising to me in the division, right? Now there was your stalwarts, right, who you knew you were getting a game.
Mm.
And that instinct's hard to teach. That's why I think I tell players, stay in that division as long as you can, right? You're learning the game. You're learning what I call the flow of combat. Something the guys who know me pretty well, they're like, oh, great, here he goes. We've moved on from pie pans to 3-dimensional paintball. I believe that's the key, right? You're talking about situational awareness. That situational awareness is 3-dimensional. It's not just what my teammates are doing, right? It's the communication I've gotten back. It's the data I've received, and it's being able to see the field through the bunker that I'm in. Mm-hmm. So it's knowing what my threats are. It's knowing what can see me, what can't see me. It's knowing what I need to check off before I leave the bunker. It's all these different things. It's a 3-dimensional pattern, It's bat sonar. It's throwing it out there and saying, okay, yeah, threat. Okay, my guy's here. I need to turn this gun before I can do this. Just because a bunker's forward doesn't mean it's the right bunker in that current situation. That's the common misconception with a lot of paintball players. Forward, mm-hmm. attack. And I think you've got to learn that balance. I think there's got to be a balance between attack, communication, setting traps. Yeah. Right. You and I talked about it earlier today, and that first point against Heat. Recognizing how to play your opponent.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we could go off on that for hours.
Yeah, it actually makes me think, man, we really ought to have more conversations, because I miss this. But okay, I think we've covered. I mean, maybe people feel like. I hope people feel like they have some sort of idea of what they can do and what they can work on in each division. Really, I think what we're saying: play paintball, play as much paintball as you can, enjoy it. Work on your fundamentals, make sure they're super solid. And I think somewhere in there we talked about I think just thinking about what it is you're doing and asking the question why is a great place to start. And like you said, asking dumb questions. Like, the dumb questions are the ones no one asks, but sometimes they're the most profound answers. And so,
why is the most important question in paintball? You would be amazed at a lot of the clinics I've taught where we'd sit there and one thing I try to emphasize is field walking. It's a lost art, in the lower divisions, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of teams want to just get out there and play the layout. The Hurricanes spend on average about an hour and a half on the first layout weekend just walking the field. And we do it as a team, and there's notepads, and there's a lot of data being taken. And so you create these theories, right? Mm-hmm. And I wrote about it actually in the last blog in reference to Lone Star. It's a theory until it's been, experimented with. And that's what you do on the layout practices, right? So that's what we did in the New York Extreme match. We had theories. We practiced those theories. Some of them worked. Some of them were accurate. Some of them weren't. So there you go. And you end up with a 7-4 win. But I think to your point, why? I'd like, you're like, okay, if you were to do this, what would you? Well, I'd go here. Okay, why?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, and then they start asking themselves the question. Well, I can make it here. Well, okay, yeah. Why can you make it there? Well, this is blocked out. Now we're getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So why do I want to be here though? If my player's over there, why do I want to be here? Because I can defend him in front. Okay, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
So asking those questions, why do I want to be in this bunker? Why do I want to be in this bunker at this time? Why do I want to be here when my player's here? Why do I want to be here when they're there? So why is an important question? Ask why.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've mentioned it a few times, just for those who are unaware, the Zen and the Art of Paintball is linked. That URL is linked in the description below. Also, be sure to check out his YouTube channel. We'll plug all that at the end of this as well. So
you don't have to. It's
no, this is absolutely we do.
My
that.
YouTube channel, man. It's so funny because I watch guys like Jackson Fry and all those guys who make these great social media videos, and I'm like, wow, it's amazing. And then I try to make one, and in my head, it's going to be great. And then I get home and I edit, and I'm like, God, that sucked.
No, I think they're all fun.
People are dumber from having watched it. So.
We are all worse off. Well, let's move on then. Obviously we've been getting a lot of your perspective as a coach, and I want to continue doing that. So I think a great question, or I think something that people would be curious about is, you have your established squad right now. Obviously things will change over the course of time, I'm sure, but
sure.
You can pick whatever time frame you want to and wherever this question's relevant, but what did you look for, or what do you look for now in new players trying out? And we could take it not even just specifically for the Hurricanes. We could just say, if you were to run a new team and you pick a division, who cares? What would you be looking for in a new player to join that team?
Oh, wow. Okay. Now you're about to hear the old school stuff.
Let's hear it.
Number one, attitude. The number one thing is attitude. Are they coachable?
Amen.
Do they want to be there? Do they want to be at practice? Do they want to improve? Do they take criticism well, or is everything an attack? Do they get along with everyone else? Right? Do they fit in with the culture of the team? That's something we'll talk about too. That's something that's really important to me. Whenever I do these, I have to mention culture, but we'll get into that. So attitude. But then after that, if you're talking about the individual, so that's the mental aspect, right? Are they smart? Are they coachable? I don't tolerate stupid people. And I know that sounds harsh. Stupid can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I don't mean necessarily an intelligence.
Yeah.
But physicality, right? Are they quick? Are they athletic? I don't need a guy who can run the 40 and 4.4. That'd be nice if he can do that from a stopped position, right? From an immediate start. I love quickness. I love athleticism, durability. We've got to be lithe, right? What's their gas tank like? Right? Do they have the gas tank? Or are they going to peter out on me after 2 points? Are they coordinated? Right? How do they move their gun around them? Do they move the gun around them, or do they move around the gun? Stuff like that. So that's the physicality aspect. Durability, right? Are they injury prone? Do they have old injuries? Are there injuries I need to know about? Is this something that's going to happen before practice? And right, and then you've torn an ankle up before the event. You were my number one, right? So so durability, obviously gun skills, right? Good laner, gunfighter. Do they know what they're doing from that perspective? Can they hold their own, right? And finally, next to physicality and attitude, I would have to say communication. I don't mean just on the field. And they articulate their thoughts, ideas and data
Yeah.
to me and their teammates well. And they communicate well with their teammates on and off the field. So, yeah, I think those are the things I'm looking for. I'm looking for athleticism. I'm looking for a good attitude. I'm looking for a guy who knows how to communicate and talk, who understands that the name on the jersey is more important than the name on the back of it. Right? I'm looking for a teammate, not a superstar.
Yeah.
Does I guess that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'd be looking
Oh, that's
for.
great. Yeah. Well, with that, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'd like to touch on it again in the stream, which is that, and I watch a lot of paintball as well, as much as I can get my hands on, really. And anytime I see like in between point stuff at tournaments, pits, that sort of situation, it's very, very interesting to see how different certain pits are. And the difference in attitude. And I mean, even at the pro division, it always surprises me. Like, you guys are professionals. What are you doing? Why are you shouting and screaming at each other? You're in a tournament that you've presumably paid a lot of money to be here. There's sponsors that are expecting you to perform. Like, anyway, that's another issue entirely. But it's really interesting to see how quickly the mentality and attitude in a pit can instantly tank performance out on the field. And so the question that I have is from a coach like yourself, because I get the impression, and I'm sure other people do. I know that Carlton Lewis in the chat mentioned that he pitted for you guys. He's in the chat right now. His name's Tonlo on the Discord server.
Hey man, how are you? I love that cat, dude. That dude is a hard worker. Hey, thank you for all your help, bro. For real.
So yes, he's in the chat. He pitted for you guys. So, but my question is, what do you do as a coach to ensure that the mentality within the pits is good to go? That it's not going to be a negative factor, let's say, in your performance.
Right. I sent you an article on that earlier today, and it's very in depth. If you can get past the first, me kind of just getting a couple of things out of my brain, the meat of it's really towards the end. Okay.
I'm going to grab this article link. I'm going to grab this article. Oh, it's actually on Facebook. I did pull it up, but I'll link it in the chat as you talk. So go ahead.
Sure.
Keep going.
It's called Into the Pit, but here's the thing. Too many teams don't take their pit crew seriously. Matter of fact, they don't take a lot of different things that they think is just, whatever, flights, rental cars, lodging, all that stuff, timing. That's not important, and they take the same attitude towards a pit crew. So first I want to address pit crew, and second I want to talk about pit, what I call pit control, right? Take your pit crew seriously, right? If you can get a guy like Carlton in your pit, you're solid. Two of the best people I know, and they'd probably get mad at me for mentioning their names, but Willie and Cameron, and then the wives of the Hurricanes. I'll just go ahead and say that. These are people who understand how a pit should be run. They understand when they should get paint. They understand how to take care of the paint. They ask players like, how many pods do you normally carry? Do you like them up or down? And they've got it all memorized.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have to be told to do anything. They're there with the team, and they're there after the match with the team. They're on autopilot. These are people that you trust. These are people that go in there and you can sit there and everything's taken care of, and it lets the team and the coach focus on the match. That's important.
Yeah.
If I have to turn around and say, hey, you're breaking paint. Why are you podding paint and crushing paint? Or you're walking up and no one's standing there and they're not filling pods, or they're not getting the guy's air, or they're not wiping the guys off, whatever. Why are you in there? Are you just in there just to get a free view of the match? What are you doing? So take your pit crew serious. Make sure they're people you trust. And trust's a very important thing in paintball, bro. If you've got someone on your team, ask any of your teams, all of you guys who are on D4, D3, if there's anyone on your team, and don't voice it just yet, but ask yourself, is there someone on that team you don't trust when they're out on the field with you? You've got a problem.
Yeah.
right? And that's got to be fixed and squashed, because if you don't trust them and they're on the field with you and the coach called the line and they're out there, you're going to try and do their job while doing your own, and everybody going to die.
Yeah.
So trust your pit crew. Get a solid pit crew and line it up before the event. Don't post somewhere on social media 20 minutes before you play and say, hey, I'll give you a case of beer if you come and run pods for me.
Yeah.
Well, you get some jackwagon out there that actually shows up drunk, gets you a penalty because he goes out on the field too early, right? That's foolish. So take that stuff seriously. Take your pit crew seriously. Pit control is about composure. You made a comment. A lot of these pro teams are losing their stuff, right? They're going crazy. Some of them do it. They're competitors, and it's understandable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if your competitors understand that composure, right? We talked about sportsmanship. We talked about respect. We talked about knowing your role and doing your job and having that hierarchy. I think that's important.
Yeah.
If the guys didn't respect me, I wouldn't have any control in that pit. You've got to earn that trust. So coaches, earn the trust of your guys. Prove it to them. Don't ask them to do anything you won't do. I get out there. I'll work with the guys. I'll pods. I'll do all that. None of that's above me.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, beneath me. Right? You've got to be willing to put in the time and effort with your guys. So composure is important because it's got to be part of the culture. There's that word again. If you've got a culture of hotheads, competitive guys who just want to drop F-bombs and slap people and tank people and tell and point fingers and say it's the ref's fault or this guy got me shot because he sucks, it's amateur hour out there. I don't want anything to do with that squad. I wouldn't coach it if you paid me 10 grand.
Yeah.
No joke. It's not worth it. You've got to make sure. I think that all comes back to culture and making sure you've got those guys, the right group of guys in the pit. It's about trust. It's about believing in the system. If you lose your composure for a second, there's always somebody there. If it's not me, it's going to be a teammate. Quick smack across the face. Hey, get it together. We're in a match here. Eyes here.
Yeah.
And then understand that, hey, we need you here in this moment. That's outside stuff. That's noise. That goes out of the pit. So I think it really comes down to answer your question. It really comes down to a culture discussion, not just how do you keep the pit cool. The pit was cool before we even got to the event. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, because I had the right people, I've got the right people on the roster. I got the right people on the pit crew.
Yeah. I'd be remiss if I know Brandon in here from our team, Brandon Martinez from Utah Brew Army is here. And I would absolutely be remiss if I didn't shout out Mama T and Kelly for being one of the best pit crews, if not the best pit crew.
Do it. Give them love, man.
Absolutely.
They don't get respect, and that's what sucks.
Yeah.
Because every time the Hurricanes won, man, it was a team effort, and the pit crew is part of that team. All the wives, all the girlfriends, all the friends, the guys, shout out to the I-75 crew that comes in and helps us all the time. Love those guys, right? So I think that's why we're seeing some success, is because we surround ourselves with the right people. Keep us focused, eyes on the goal.
Yeah, eyes on the prize. No, I absolutely agree. I could reiterate exactly what you said. 1,000%, 1,000 times. It's interesting to see, and certainly the level of commitment to the sport is a factor in this, but it is such a uphill battle to try and do well at a tournament without, like you said, a well-oiled machine with the pit crew and with a coach that I think, like you said, not only you respect, but also one of the things that was something I learned in the 2019 season was you're going to go out as a player and you're going to get punched in the face in a certain point, right? It might be your first point of the day. It might be after you won your first game in the second series, you play a team that surprises you, whatever the case is. You're going to go out there and something's going to happen that feels like a punch to the face, and you're going to be scrambling. And in some cases, you might be afraid to go back out there because you don't want to let your team down. You don't want to lose the point for you. But it took it takes a lot of trust to look to your coach and say, I am willing to do whatever it is you think we should do. If that includes putting me out again, I will do that. And I remember playing in the 2021 World Cup this last season, and I don't remember who we were playing against, but I came out of the pit and it was like 3 points in a row where I think it was, I almost want to say it was either against you guys or Jesters. I think it might have been Jesters, but so it would have been actually Sunshine State. But I remember coming out to that, essentially the primary bunker for the number 2 on the Doritos side. And it was at practice, I was able to make that running and gunning no problem. And then 1 point goes and I get shot and I don't trade with the guy. It's actually World Cup. It was against Jesters. And because there's that center run in the big wedge, if you remember the layout. And so I remember that the battle was to run out to the Doritos side tower, shooting back at that guy running at you. And that was kind of like a 50-50. And I, first point, lost it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's a 50-50. I'll try it again. Second point, I couldn't make it again. I was like, okay, that's not good, but I'm just going to call it another 50-50. The third point, I go out and I still die. I don't trade with the guy. And I just am like demoralized. I'm like, and it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not necessarily thinking I'm a bad player as a result of this, but I'm almost panicking thinking to myself, did all the prep that I put into this not pan out for anything? And so I told the coach like, hey, I think you need to sit me. I am just dying and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm not trading with this guy. I don't know what it is that I'm doing wrong. And he just, Al Martinez, our coach, just looked at me and said, I need you to go out. I need you to go out this next point. And he just said, I want you to do whatever you think you need to get there alive, but I just need you to change it up. But I believe in you. And it was just like, okay. So then I put my gun down. I ran out quicker and I was able to survive. I shot the guy in the center and then we went on to do well. You know, I don't know if we won that point, but it's just to say that it takes a lot to not think so much of yourself, because I think a lot of times in the teams that I've played for, people who are not doing well will instantly kind of shut in themselves and like isolate themselves. They don't want to hear their teammates. They don't want to listen to the coach, and they'll just go off and have a temper tantrum. And it's like, dude, I don't care if you keep getting shot. Like we need you to do a job, and you just need to execute on that job. And that's it. It's not about your emotions at this point. It's about executing on a job that you're given by your coach. And if your coach wants to put you out, he believes that you can do that job. You just have to believe in yourself at this point. But there's so often people just shut in, and when they start to either feel embarrassed or that they're getting smashed or whatever the case is, and they stop communicating, they stop being a team player. And it is such a difficult thing to overcome in a team sport, especially in paintball. But
it's interesting. You're exactly right. Right. See, one of the most difficult things to do as a coach, right, is to remove the emotion.
Yeah.
Right. So when I make decisions, whether it be on calling lines, right, or a play or what have you, and all I'm doing is I'm going off the data. I'm removing it. I've got the most difficult thing about coaching the New Orleans Hurricanes is I love every single one of those guys. I mean, they're family. Yeah. They are family, and we've broke bread together all the time. And I know their wives well. I know their children. You know, and it's difficult. It's difficult to, you know, not play certain players, right? Yeah. But that's the thing about the Canes, and I think you're going to find that should be the thing for any paintball team. Really, is whenever a new layout comes out, with every new layout, I've got a new team, because I have to apply the strengths and weaknesses of each individual player and the team to that layout. So I've got a new team every time. So if you don't have a good event, or maybe you didn't see a lot of points leading up to the event or what have you, right? And there's the next event. And, you know, it's interesting. Like at the first event, they were using Drew Bell's name a lot, right? Drew Bell was killing it over in the D side. Yeah. This event, you heard Stu Ridgel's name a lot. You know, I promise you're going to hear a lot of names on these guys, because I've got the depth. I don't have any Ollie Langs. I don't have any superstars. I don't want superstars. You know what it is? I've got a bunch of guys who trust each other.
Yeah.
They'll eat a bullet for each other, and they'll go out there and they will bang with the best. You know, until we beat, you know, a top tier team, it's just pillow talk, right? We know that. We understand that. We're not supposed to be doing well. We get that, yeah. But we don't care. We don't listen to any of that. We don't hear all that. And I guess that's really what I'm trying to say. Culture.
Yeah.
Here we go again, Stephen. Culture and goal setting, right? Culture is the critical factor in success of any team. I'll just go ahead and say it right now. When I talk about the culture of a team, I'm really talking about what the team's behaviors are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, well, no, what the team's acceptable behaviors are, okay? So what are the behaviors we promote as a team, right? What are those preferred behaviors? So every team member has to buy into that culture, those behaviors. They have to agree with those behaviors. Things like being on time, pushing each other in a positive reinforcement perspective, staying in shape. These are all elements that can be cultural to the team. Now, on the flip side, you've got that toxic culture, right? Finger pointing, excuse making, cheating, individual or selfishness amongst players. Culture's huge. The Hurricanes, I think the most important cultural aspect of the Hurricanes is accountability. Carry your weight, be a good person. When you mess up, own it, move on. Because I'm not going to sit there and hold it over your head. Wow, you sucked on that third point of the second match of the third event. And I don't hold on to that. I'm like, it's hysterical. I have players come in and they're like, messed up, coach. I'm like, did you learn from it? Yes, sir. Cool. Get ready. I don't have time to sit there and do at this level. I'm not really coaching them from a perspective of what they need to do. I mean, that's part of it, but these guys are warriors, right?
They're autonomous machines.
If any successful athlete's going to be a warrior, and he moves on, right? So, we talked about goals. We're talking about successful. How are you successful? How do you meet this stuff? And from an individual perspective, or from a team perspective, from any team, from D4 to pro, I think you have to have goals. And you and I talked about how simple my goals were for the first event.
Yeah.
They didn't change for the second. They didn't. Matter of fact, we were, win a match, don't get last. For this event was, hey, win 2 matches, don't get last. Instead, we won 3. So we kind of jumped the shark there a little bit. But when I say that your goals have to be smart, and I'm being clever because when I say SMART, it's actually an acronym. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you've heard of SMART goals. It's a common thing in the business world. Yeah. And I work in the corporate world outside of paintball, so I borrow a lot from that, from the leadership of where I work. And if you want to know what I do for a living, I'm what is called a strategic planner.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, it sounds fancy. It's not.
Remind me the S. I know the rest of them. I feel like remind me the S is SMART.
Right. The S. Okay, so you want your goal to be specific.
That's what it is. Specific. Okay.
All right. That's right. You want it to be specific. So, if you're specific, you clearly define it, right? So you want to clearly define it. You want the more detailed you get, the better. The easier it's going to become, right? So you want to be specific about your goal. Next, what's the next one?
Measurable.
Right. Measurable, that's right. So you want it to be measurable. You want to set minor goals within the goals, or perhaps develop a way to record gains, right? So you want to be able to track your progress. So you make it measurable. So we want to be specific. We want to be measurable. We want it to be achievable, right? So SMA, we want it to be achievable. It has to be attainable. If you're a D4 team and you've only got 4 guys and you want to be the next pro X-ball team in 2 years, it's not happening, right? So it's got to be achievable. It's something that, hey, let's go win this. Let's win a local event. And then with that, let's go win a second local event. So let's set these achievable goals, right? Next, it needs to be realistic. So meaning it's got to be legitimate, right? We want it. It's got to be relevant too. Yeah. So Can you reach it in time? Do you have the resources to reach it? Do you have the capabilities on hand? Right. So it needs to be realistic. And finally, the T.
Time sensitive.
Right. I was going to say timely. It took me a minute. I had a brain fart there for a minute, but it's got to be timely. You got to have a timeline. There has to be a due date, a drop dead date. Right. If you have a good timeline, a realistic one that's clearly defined, that's going to create urgency.
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to drive you. So there. That's my little lesson. I think if you can implement a solid, engaged team culture with SMART goals, you're going to be on your way to some amount of success sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, I just want to take a pause here real quick. We have surpassed, well, the 45-minute timeline that I had asked of you, which is...
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
No. No, remember, this is... I would talk to you for like hours, but I want to be respectful of your time, especially given the time difference. So I have at least 2 more questions, I believe, that I would love to get your take on. And then I know that the chat has asked a few questions, at least 2 that I've seen, maybe 3, that I would love to ask. And then I definitely don't want to keep you too long, so I'll let you go after that and give you some final things to say. But the other question that I had that I wanted to ask was, and I had asked you this question earlier today, so I just want to hear your take on it again. And again, obviously, the people on the stream. But as a coach... Obviously, your guys, like you've said, are weapons. They are resources to you. You utilize their skills based on the layouts that you have in front of you. And so your case is a little bit different than maybe some others. But I'm curious, if you were to apply your experience broadly speaking, what would you say is the biggest thing that prevents a player from being on the starting roster? Because you've gotten, let's say, a guy gets on a team. He knows he's got the skills, whatever. But he just isn't on the starting roster. He doesn't get picked. He doesn't get picked to go out in that first point. And maybe it's for a very specific reason. Maybe it's not. But assuming it's something within the player's control, would you say is the biggest thing that prevents a player from being on the starting roster?
Circumstances. Like, for instance, I have a tremendous player on this team. He's dynamite. And he's probably the smallest guy you'll ever see. Right? Shout out to my boy Jacob Seawright. He is a weapon.
Seawright is amazing.
He is. But he missed the field walk in Lone Star. I know the guy knows how to play paintball. I know the guy is a killer. I know he's a major threat. Right? But I told him, I said, that field walk was really important. I'm not sure you're where you need to be right now. But that's the beauty of this team. Seawright's a team player. He's like, good call. Now, of course, he had his time to walk the field, watch points, see things. And then guess what? Seawright got to put on a couple of points, on day 2 and really show why he's a hurricane, right?
Yeah. So
I would say circumstances. If I've got, like, for instance, the Hurricanes, every single member of the Hurricanes, depth, right? I've got depth. I've got depth in the 3 spot. I've got depth in the 2 spot. I've got depth in the 1 spot, right? Mm-hmm. And it's statistics for me. Who's a lot of guys, I'll usually turn guys and spin guys and do things like that. I do that because I've got some really solid guns on the break, right? I want to get those guys. I'd much rather play you 5-on-3 than 5-on-5, especially in this division. Yeah. So I would say circumstances, like you alluded to and said earlier, it really depends on the layout. It really depends on the layout, because that layout and those practices leading up to that layout. Now I know you put it as like kind of a what if type situation. How does that guy change his destiny, right? Yeah. He changes his destiny by showing me. It's that simple. It's not rocket science or math to me. If I've got a player who comes out there and is just killing it at practice, he's going to play. Now, for the longest time, I had a thing where I went with the OG lineup of the Hurricanes, because the Hurricanes were around a lot longer before I got there. Yeah. And so I always went with that starting five, because I brought several players on with me, right, from other teams, because that was part of my role, right? Part of my role is look, I think we're missing some depth, so I brought in some players, and now you're starting to see that mix up a little bit now. Now it's like, okay, well, this guy was killing in practice, so this guy's going to get the start. And maybe the next layout, it's not his layout. And, it's just not his. Like, for instance, a Jacob Seawright, you don't throw to the Dorito corner on the Lone Star layout and tell him to take 8 pods and hold his own. You send Jacob Seawright out there to go kill somebody.
Yeah.
Hey, I want you to go get jiggy with it, baby. Let's go. Let's be among them on their side of the field. That's what a Jacob Seawright does, right? But now I get a slow, cool burn with a Mike Brown, right, or a Justin Bailey that controlled, meticulous, watching, knowing when to go, checking off, that instinct versus that academia. Yeah. So there's all that stuff. These are all components that go into that, and what I'm looking for. So I guess the question would be, how does he change his destiny? Well, how does he change his playing style to fit the layout? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or did I complicate it too much?
No. I think that what I take away from that is it's important, like you said at the beginning or earlier, it's really important to be versatile, because if you're not, then if your job, if your specialty is not required in the layout, you might not play a single point because of that. And so it's important to be versatile. It's important to look at yourself as a paintball player, not just strictly a snake player, not just strictly a Dorito player. I think a great example of that, which is obvious, is Dynasty. I mean, I remember when I went to the paintball combine in Arizona. I think it was for 2020. And I had Ryan as our coach for the tournament.
It's a good one.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ryan Greenspan. How could you? You can't go wrong there. But I just remember he was talking to us about the position thing, and I think I remember him saying something to the effect that, like, he doesn't consider himself like a traditional back player, but he was playing really well, I think, at practice in one particular layout, and that they all just collectively decided he should play the middle because he was filtering up the center really well, and he ended up winning the Golden Barrel. He was the MVP for the tournament and they ended up winning that event too. And so that was his experience with that, to say that, if everybody comes with the athleticism you need to play every position, then you can just find out what it is that you're doing particularly well on a layout, because some people's brains solve certain problems because of either their experience or just the way that they view things. Obviously, you want to be able to solve every problem, and you should. But for me personally, my small limited career in paintball, I started off as a Dorito player, or playing on the Dorito side exclusively. I then went over to the snake side, and I enjoyed that. I played behind our front player, and then I actually went to go play the back center guy, and I love that because it taught me read and reacting. It taught me when to filter up the center, when not, what the problems with filtering up the center too early, when you start losing bodies, so on and so forth. And so it opened up this chessboard to me within paintball, so that when I eventually went back to playing the Doritos, and I was primarily playing the front Dorito player, my game sense and awareness had been broadened so much by playing all those experiences that I knew what the snake side was likely to do, especially as the number 2. I knew what the home guy was looking to do after the first 10 seconds of the point, which is usually kind of filter up the center. So I would hold for a second, and so on and so forth. And so I tried now to view myself. I try to be the guy who, if nobody wants to play the snake, I will play the snake, because I want to be that guy who is willing to take that responsibility on. And I think that's helped me a lot. I really appreciated that lesson that Ryan shared with me. So,
and you're spot on. And now, don't get me wrong, right? Survivability, communication, these are all things that I was talking to my guys recently. One of my guys, he's incredibly aggressive, incredibly athletic, and we had a long discussion. He was talking, I was like, hey, I'd really like you on this last point. This was leading up. It was an off layout practice. And I was like, I really need you to start talking more. I need you to start connecting. Yeah, but coach, I'm running down the field. I'm the one. I'm in the snake. I'm killing people. I'm doing that. I'm like, yeah, I know. I really need you to start talking to people. And so it got to the point where he would stop and he'd communicate. And then blah, blah, blah. And he gets shot. And he's like, I'm getting shot. I said, yeah, but you're talking.
Yeah.
And we're winning the point because the data you gave, the guys were able to finish. So now let's find how to mix that communication in with your natural aggression, and you're going to be money. So long story short, it's change your destiny by, making yourself better. Always improve.
Yeah.
We should always constantly be trying to improve. I guarantee you, Ryan Greenspan still gets out there and practice snaps and lanes and does all that stuff.
He does.
So, get out there and hold yourself to a higher level, be accountable.
That's beautiful. I think that's a perfect note to end on for my questions. Like I said, I just have a few from the chat. If you've got a little bit of extra time to
come on
to answer. So let's see. I'm gonna actually scroll to the top here because I know I missed some. We got some people from the Slidell area. I think it says.
Excellent. I'm 5'8". I'm an Aquarius. I like long walks on the beach.
The comment from Lord of Wolves says, I want to say when I heard that the Hurricanes, this is exactly what they said. When I heard that the Hurricanes, my heart dropped and was so happy. I'm so proud of you and the team, especially y'all are from my hometown, Slidell, Louisiana. Keep up the work, man. That's just a comment. So
thank you. Thank you very much. I will tell you the Hurricane fans they're just amazing. When we got to this level, we didn't know what to expect, right?
Yeah.
But everybody has been so supportive and so kind. And please, if you see us at an event, come up, say hi. I promise we'll talk to you. I do, and we'll just be just as excited to talk to you as you are to us.
I can testify that is absolutely true. He actually asked the question. She. I think it's a he. In your opinion, what are the most important things when forming your own team? Let's say that.
Camaraderie. Everyone needs to get along, and if they don't, they need to at least respect each other, right? Respect each other in their role, their position, and their goal. You don't have to like each other, right? But everyone needs to be rowing in the same direction. So I would say like-minded individuals, right? If I've got 3 guys that are gung-ho and want to play paintball, and then I got another 3 guys that are like, I don't have a good team. It's that simple. I need everybody gung-ho and mowing in the same direction and wanting the same things. We've got to align those goals. Alignment is key. So the most important thing is everybody wants to be there and everybody wants to be around each other, because let me tell you something, being on a paintball team and traveling together and sleeping in hotel rooms on sofas together and stuff, it's going to get cozy.
Yeah.
And if you don't like each other, it's going to suck.
I've probably shared like 4 beds with Ethan Vines up at this till this point, so he and I are very close.
Oh, he's a big teddy bear, man.
Yeah. Oh,
That's a good one to share
he's a great guy to cuddle with. Question here. Question from Tony in the chat: is hot-headedness something that could be used for good as well? I've seen my hot-headed team turn their aggression into a win.
That's an interesting. Hey, Tony, man, that's a great question. I think, yes, if it can be focused in a positive manner, right? If you can sit there and the guy gets fired up, he's like, blah, 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 and he's losing it, right? And he's like, come on, boys, we got to get this together. We got to start playing right, and you turn that hot-headedness into a positive of that hot-headedness is slapping someone on the butt and saying, hey, we got to get this together. Let's turn this around, baby. I know you're a great paintball player. Let's go play some great paintball. Yeah, I can see that. I get that. That makes sense. I've just always believed, Tony, that the guy who keeps his head in a gunfight keeps his head.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. My wife tells me I should make that into a T-shirt. But yeah, I can see it. Here's why. It comes to that culture thing that we talked about, right? If you've got a culture of guys who react well to that, rock on, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think more. I 100% agree with you. I think suss out the culture, and if it works, then use it. I think it's a resource you can utilize for in our experience, and maybe this is a limiting factor of me as a teammate. I don't need hype. I don't need to turn on really loud music in my headphones. I'm a laser focused guy. I'm willing to listen to anybody who wants to talk to me, but at a tournament, I'm just like constantly thinking about different scenarios, different puzzles to be solved, especially as you start adding points into the mix. And so I
You're
don't
playing the game in your head.
yeah, and so I'm trying to work out, okay, when I got to this situation and this happened, why was I stopped? What was it that I wasn't doing? And so I'm trying to just keep my head, as you say, in the gunfight. And so anything else outside of that doesn't do anything for me. And so I wouldn't do well with a team that was very much so rah, rah, rah. Let's, shout and scream and get ourselves super emotionally high. Because I think, I personally, not that this is true for all people, but I don't remember what the phrase is, but it's like, don't, not too high, not too low. You want to stay cool-headed, medium, because
even keel.
Yeah, because I think in my experience, the people who allow themselves to get really high prior to a match are also ones that are very susceptible to tanking very low when something doesn't go their way. And that to me is just an emotional hurdle that I don't care to overcome. I can just
Right, it's a double-edged sword. If they can get that fired up about positivity, they can get that fired up about negativity as well. I see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I think we're saying the same thing, and it's a great question. I think it comes down to culture.
Yeah.
So.
And like you said,
that's a great question.
It works for a lot of people. Okay, last one that I have, and then I'll let you go. And obviously, I want to hear, please plug everything you got. I know that people are going to want to hear more from you. So let's finish off with this. Jackie from the chat asks, if a successful team could be broken down to 4 pillars, what would you identify those pillars to be? That might be a tough one, but off the cuff.
That's a great question. That is a great question. Well, we've already talked about one, right? Culture.
Yeah.
So culture. Time. I think you've got to put in the time. You got to put in the work. I love getting videos from. I've got Daniel Camp is a member of the Hurricanes, and he lives out in Colorado.
Oh, I didn't.
Daniel will send me videos of him working out, saying, "Hey, coach, putting in the work." Right? Aaron Smith out of Atlanta will send me videos. "Hey, coach, take a look at this video of me. Do you see anything?" Right? These guys want to get better. So culture, time, drive, but I guess that's all of this rolls up into culture.
Yeah. Well, maybe would you say
really,
commitment?
All of it does.
Would you say commitment is separate from culture?
Commitment, great.
Yeah.
Yes, commitment, perfect. So commitment, loyalty. These guys are down for the cause. I made a comment about Aaron Smith, right? Like in the last blog, Aaron Smith, everyone, he felt dumb. He felt this and that because he felt he messed up. I felt he just showed me exactly why he's wearing a Hurricane jersey. So what I'm talking about, everyone, is that point where he left the field before the point started. It was during the ML Kings match. Some idiot behind him was yelling, "The Canes have 6, the Canes have 6. The Canes are starting with 6." And so knowing that if you start with 6, it's an automatic swing point to the other team, and we were only ahead by 1 point, he took the hit. He made the ultimate sacrifice, came off the field. And we started 5-on-4 and shot 2 of them on the break and then won the point. So, you put good in the world, that good comes back. But anyway, so commitment, culture, loyalty, camaraderie. I think that's really key. I think it's really important to break bread with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do everything as a team together. We eat together. We room together. We always try to get a house, not hotels. We travel to, we're in the same cars together. We move around, it's like a wolf pack. So that's a great question. 4 pillars. I like it.
You have to think about that and write that up.
Think about that one. Yeah. Great question.
That'd be a good blog topic.
That's fantastic.
But
I think you're right.
Well, it's been an absolute treat to have you on and to hear your thoughts. Something we didn't get into, which is totally fine. But I think maybe sometime after Philly, we should have a conversation about your if A then B style of paintball, because to me that is obviously you've written a lot about it on your blog and people should absolutely go read that. I'm a bit behind, but I have been reading your blogs and they're amazing. But I think that style of paintball is the future, and it's here already, right? We're seeing it in your team and the Pro Division. It is here, but it is going to be, I think the way that smart teams play paintball moving forward, it has been for the last however many years you've been doing it. But I think that would be something that'd be really fun to talk about on stream at some point. So we'd love to have you back at some time.
Let's do
future,
it. I talked that very topic with Maddie and Rich briefly. I talked about how the sport has always been academic. You're just starting to see teams recognize it and attach to it, align to it, and start taking that academic approach. Its tendencies. You and I talked about it earlier today. You're playing the other team. Right? You're really playing. Okay, we know that they have this tendency.
Yeah.
Right. Or we know this guy likes to do this, like we were talking about in the heat match. I'm like, look, Moorhead's going to take the snake. He's skipping snake 1 and 2, going straight to that 50, and he's looking inside. We're going to go to the center. We're not going to touch the bunker. We're going to post up and wait for him to prairie dog. Bap. So it's the academic aspect. It's if A, then B. It's about reads, right? Making reads. If we see this scenario, how we react. So yeah, we can break that down. Let's talk about that sometime.
That would be a blast. Well, plug everything you got. Let people know where they can stay in touch with you, or rather that they can get more of your brain information out, because I'm sure people are going to want to know more.
I only have half one, but it still amazes me that people even care what I have to say. So if you're interested, I do write a blog, and now granted it's monthly, and if you want, I've been doing it since, I can't remember, I think 2016, 2017. So there's a lot of them. They're just in monthly orders. You can go off to the side at Zen and the Art of Paintball, all one word, zenandtheartofpaintball.com. That'll take you straight to the blog. You can follow me on Facebook at Zen and the Art of Paintball on Facebook, where I just did a giveaway. And I usually talk about stuff, and I'll post links to the blogs there. I'll post videos. Mm-hmm. Then, of course, you can follow me on Instagram at ZenWap73. That's kind of boring. I'll get on there and talk about America and stuff. So, pocket knives and firearms. And then that's pretty much it. And
YouTube?
Of course,
do you want to plug your YouTube?
I did. Well, yeah, I've got a YouTube channel. It's I guess it's Zen Paintball on YouTube. I think that's what it is. I don't know. I have 2 accounts there, and I'll find the link after the stream and post it in the description for this video, because I have your Zen and the Art of Paintball blog posted, but I'll get that one as well. You are too kind. And I want to send a shout out to the New Orleans Hurricanes. Love all you guys. I look forward to seeing you guys here very, very soon. And of course, I want to plug our sponsors. Absolutely. I genuinely do believe we have the best mix of sponsors in the pro game today. Planet Eclipse, GI Sports, JT, Virtue Paintball, and Carbon, and Gulf Coast Paintball down there in Slidell. So, and of course, Zen and the Art of Paintball. So, I mean, they are amazing, right?
Yeah.
The Virtue Hopper from Virtue, it's awesome. You can't go wrong with any Planet Eclipse marker. The Carbon Barrel and our carbon packs and our carbon padding, God bless them, because it even protects old guys like me. GI Sports, best paint in the game. I honestly I've been playing 29 years, and I have not shot a better batch of paint than I did at the Lone Star Open. And I mean that.
Awesome.
It was incredible. So, and of course the JT masks and our jerseys are just,
those jerseys are awesome.
Hot.
Those jerseys are
hot,
awesome.
Man. Yeah. So, matter of fact, Lackey from Damage designed them. So God bless that man.
Oh, cool.
So he's
That's
making
awesome.
waves over on Damage. So good for him. Dude's awesome. He's such a cool dude. I love him to death. So.
Well, thank you again so much for your time, Mike. It's okay for me to call you Mike, right? I realize I've just been calling you your
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Well, because I didn't know if you preferred Michael or not. But again, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll be in touch very soon. Good luck at Philly. I hope you guys get to Sunday and get to that top 4 like that. I know that's probably a bigger goal than what you're aiming for, but everybody's believing in you. We're all, you saw the poll from my YouTube community. We all believe in you. So we know you can do it.
Realistic goals. Realistic.
There you go.
So,
well, hey,
God bless you. Thank you so much. I love what you're doing. You're also friends with a good friend of mine, Jackie Lawn. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's playing with Destiny these days, from what I understand. So check them out. And, You know, big shout out to all your crew. Thank you for welcoming me, and God bless you all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later.
Yes, sir. You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Let's oh, wait, let's change to this one. Yeah, okay. Well. Wow, what a guy. What an amazing guy. I'm telling you what, guys, like if you get a chance, if you go to an NXL event and you get a chance to speak to Mike Bianca, do it. It's worth it. It is absolutely worth it. One of the most kindest, humblest people you'll meet. And all the Hurricanes are awesome people too. Really good group of people. I'm not surprised at how supportive people are of them because of just how amazing they are. All right. Okay, I got a couple things to say, and then we've still got 30 minutes left in the stream. I did have some requests to look at a layout. I have a request to look at the USXBL layout, and I think a WC PPL event layout. So we're gonna do that, but really quick, I want to plug a few things before I'm sure I'll lose a good portion of you people, because some of you guys aren't gonna be playing this. Why is it not showing up? WC PPL. Okay, there we go. So first thing, back player guide is coming out tomorrow. Now, I don't know when it's coming out yet. At tomorrow, it might come out midnight on Friday, but it is coming out tomorrow. I still have a bit of work to do with it, but I am shooting as hard as I can to get it out tomorrow. I know a lot of people have been asking about that, so be excited for that. I'd love for everybody to watch it as soon as it comes out. It really helps me out a lot. So thank you for everybody who's been encouraging me. If you guys enjoy this content, if you guys liked what you saw tonight, I know we lost a good portion of people. Consider becoming a member, or consider becoming a supporter on YouTube. You can check it out at the join button somewhere on this video, I believe. But it really it helps me out. The resource constraint I have right now is mostly time. I can't dedicate a bunch of time or all of my time to this because it's not my full-time job. So the closer I can get to that, the more I can tell you guys what's in my mind and get even not even better, because Mike Bianca is like one of the best guests I could get, but more and more guests, I should say. So let me see what else. Oh, I don't have an ETA yet. Big brain paintball, baby. I don't have an ETA yet on merch, but there is merch coming, and I'm not ready to reveal the design just yet, but it's pretty cool. There'll be dry fit t-shirts that you can wear while you play, as well as a jersey. Very similar to the, well, it's Daizana. I'll just say that. So I love the brand, super nice. But be on the lookout for that. Obviously, that's another way to support me, but I think you guys will really enjoy the design, so it'll be really cool. So I need to find out really quick from the community what the layout was that they wanted me to look at. Oh, sorry, one second. And you link the layout. All right, cool. Okay. Well, if you guys were only here for the interview, that part is done. But now we're going to move on to talking about two layouts. We'll probably go through it quickly because we only got 30 minutes. The first one is the USXBL event layout 2, it looks like. So let's see. Let's take a look at this. This is the right one, right? June 17th to the 19th. Okay, so this is coming up. Wow, that's a... Oh, no, that's the Mid-Atlantic Major. Okay, maybe this event's coming out much sooner. All right. Initial thoughts. While I wait for that link to come for the WCPPL layout, I'll just go through this one really quick. All right. Like I said, the very first thing I like to do is I like to just look at the zones that exist. And with enough practice, you can kind of draw them pretty consistently. This is tough. You know what? I think we draw that. I think we draw that a little farther. You could obviously, there's a lot of different ways to draw these zones, right? And I'm drawing this without playing the layout at all. But what I'm mostly looking at is where where would, if we were to do a default breakout, where would each player likely go? Like, which zone would they go into? The only difference in this case, and one of the reasons I drew the zone the way I did at the beginning, is because I think the number 1 on the Dorito side would probably go here, and the number 2 would go there. But the blinds might be such that this guy can actually get out here, and making that the zone, in fact. So it would be something like this. Again, this is like super, this would be like super default. So again, helpful to just, I mean, some people use zones, some people don't. It's still just helpful to kind of look at them and see what we're working with. So pretty interesting layout with a lot of wedges. Next thing I like to do, I hate the red, I'll tell you what. And the Guns Up app, this thing hurts my eyes. The next thing I do is I just like to look at the baseline and see what sort of shots exist as you start to run out to each corner. So there's definitely some up the gut shots over the brick. I don't really think you're going to hit anything in this little window here as you're running, but it's possible. More threats from the home, which obviously means you could shoot back. And then we've got a little cake as the corner bunker here. Also, thank you so much. I don't know why. I guess I'm not signed into the right Stream Elements account, but thank you guys for the follows. I haven't been reading the subscriptions, and I haven't been getting notifications of it either. So let's see. We've gotten a lot. Holy cow. Anthony Mendoza, Patrick Parker, Wolfman 205, Elric 07, Dallas Cammett, Lord of Wolves, Jassiri, Ethan Jones, and Brandon Reed for becoming a member. Thank you, thank you. Nicholas Gibson and Joseph Bergs. Thanks guys for subscribing. I appreciate that. We have passed 2,200 subscribers, which is insane. Okay, so I think if you were to run and gun, you might be able to shoot back at this juice box. I'm not sure if that's what people are still calling it. But this is a pretty tough run and gun, to be honest, with all the pillars and stuff. So I think I don't know what you would be shooting at primarily, except for maybe a guy running. Actually, you'd be shooting at the guy trying to run to the snake, in my opinion. You'd be trying to shoot this guy if you were to do that to the corner. And then if we switch other side, I mean, your first, like, 3 balls could be at the home, but it looks like you'd probably shoot right here, trying to hit a guy floating out in the dead zone here. That would be a shot for sure. You've got a cross shot in between the can and the pin. I don't really think you would shoot that, though. You have a heads up shot if you put paint here as you guys are running out. You might hit him. You could always shoot at the home. If the home guy decides to run up the center, you've obviously got this zone you could shoot at. Honestly, the Dorito side is really safe from what it looks like. Obviously, when the layout actually gets made, it's always different, but there's not really a great gap to be shot from except for the Dorito side. So this cross shot is the strongest shot that there is to kill the Dorito, like by a long shot. The one just behind that would be from the home. But not even that. I mean, you could run out to the can pretty quickly. Let's see. Yeah, actually, the can is probably the best shot next to the tower. So it looks like if you're wanting to, you know, hit a shot really quick and easy, this gap is really strong, and this gap is really strong. So those cross shots are great. The best that I can see running out to the Dorito side. Oh, actually, just kidding. This one, I think we said, also exists. So those shots are great for the Dorito. For the snake, it looked like, was that can a shot? Yeah, the snake is here for sure. So if that's the case, then wait, is there any others for the snake? This guy from the home can shoot the snake. I don't think there's anybody else. Okay, so what it looks like then is you've got this guy who can shoot the Doritos. He can also shoot the snake. And then this guy can shoot the Doritos really well. And the home guy can shoot the snake as well. So that means that you've got 2 guns, or 2 lanes between 3 people. The home guy can't shoot Dorito away, can he? Let's see. If he went over the top, he could. Okay. Risky, but if he went over the top, he could shoot this. That's a tough shot, too. But okay, so then what you want to do for this layout is just make sure that these people, you're not doubling up on lanes unless you need to target a certain player. Like, it might be that you say, all right, we want to bingo this guy running out to the Dorito, so we're going to have these 2 guns shoot it. And obviously just make adjustments accordingly, right? You don't want to have 4 guns looking one way. But again, the other option is to have this guy shoot Snake Way. And really the difference between where this guy, because he has both options, the difference between this guy playing behind the can and where he shoots is really just a matter of what is it that you want to do as a follow-up, right? If, for example, if you wanted to shoot the Dorito guy, then the assumption would be that you'd follow up by pushing the Dorito side up the center, and that way you can chop off that zone as soon as, if you do kill this guy off the break, you can lock off this entire zone if you just push up to the center right after that. And opposite would be true, right? If you wanted to push the snake side or lock off the snake side, you would just shoot that way, and then as soon as you killed him, you came up here and held that zone. Except that looks to be blocked, actually. So maybe... Oh, no, you can do it. You can do it right there. Okay. So really the question is, like, which side of the field do we want to push? And then make adjustments accordingly. So it's also going to be the case that this guy can't... Because this guy can do both... Sorry, 1 second. This music is really distracting. Okay. So because this can guy can do both, but this tower guy cannot do both, he doesn't have a Dorito side shot from here, or excuse me, a snake side shot from this bunker. I don't believe. 1 second. Yeah, he doesn't really have a shot unless he was to shoot somebody running to the corner. That would mean that this guy, if you're going to put a guy here, he's always going to shoot snake side, or rather Dorito side, which means that this guy would very likely always shoot snake side, right? Because you want to work with whatever you're most limited by, and then make your plays around that. So then that would mean that this guy not always, if you put a guy there in that dead zone or playing behind the tower, he shoots that way. The can guy, if you put a guy there, shoots this way, and then the home guy can support whichever side he wants with either a pretty okay shot over the bunker towards this Aztec, or a very decent gap to shoot at, which are essentially doubling up shots. So actually, rather, what you could do then is, if you wanted to apply the principle of nobody shoots the same lane, just as a default game plan, then what that would mean is these two guys would shoot these zones. Your number 1 on the snake side would kind of do a default route. He would either go to the corner or go to the snake, and then you would send your Dorito guy... Well, it depends on if you're making it. If you're surviving, he can go here. If he's not surviving, he has to pull up short, which kicks this guy here, the number 2 on the Dorito side there. But otherwise, if you've already got these zones covered, or if you've already got these shots covered by these 2 people, it frees up the number 2 to do whatever. So that would mean that you'd probably do something like this. Or you could go to the corner, right? So there it is. So your breakout would be either these 2, this guy, and then... I mean, it could be this. And obviously the home guy can do whatever, right? I just like to look at default breakouts to start. So, okay, cool. So let's look really quickly then at what the number 2s would do. So the number 2 on this snake side, if he didn't play this tower, which if he did, he's kind of stuck. No, that's not true. He can actually get out here. That's pretty good. That tower is really good for that Dorito side shot, actually. That almost might be a must shoot. So come out here. This is a pretty bad bunker because you're stopped by the home on a pretty wide wrap. So like if I were to stop at this bunker and then somebody beat me into the snake, which I can't really stop, like this, to get here and shoot this zone before the guy gets into the snake is really hard. If I were to go here to shoot a guy going to the corner, then that's not a bad bunker. But otherwise, if they get into the snake and then there's a guy at the home looking my way, which we established he would be, this is a really bad bunker because now I have to wrap really wide to shoot at this dude and run the risk of this guy popping up really quickly and killing me. So I should try to go past that off the break, which would be a center run into here. Probably would become pretty predictable after the first day. And then you could run baseline, either go to the corner or run baseline, get here, because when you're here, nobody can see you, and then dive straight in. So there's your routes. There's your routes for the snake. So your snake route is either straight in, which will be the fastest but most risky over the course of the tournament. And then you've got your baseline L hook, and then you've got your run out to the corner. So it's probably the 3 routes that you've got to work with as the snake. And as the number 2, you're probably you could probably kick out the home guy. So let's say, for example, you wanted to risk the body out to the snake and an L hook, and you wanted your number 2 on the snake side to stay at home to shoot the snake shot because it's a relatively safe move. Well, then that could free up your home guy to go up the center off the break and pick up this job. Or really whoever, right? It could be the snake too. Doesn't matter. And then if he does get there and hold that, then they can decide, all right, we got to kill. We killed one off the snake side, which means this dude comes out and pushes. Or we haven't gotten a kill, but these 2 guys right here and here are working together as a 2-man operation, which means I'm free to go this way if I want to. So that's an option. For the Dorito side, you've got this gap right here that we looked at already. So you've got 2 gaps. We talked about it. You've got this gap here, and this gap here. You've also got a gap right here that you would probably want to worry about. I think good teams, advanced teams, whatever you want to say, will probably use that drop shot if people are floating out in the dead zones like this. So usually people take dead zones, and then the counter to that is shoot blind shots. And then once that happens, it's all just kind of trying to expect or anticipate what your opponents are going to do, right? Because if they decide to shoot back at you, then it just forces you into the bunker right away, which isn't really a big problem. It just changes your accuracy and which zones you can shoot. Because if I have to run out here and then run forward right when I get here, it means that I'm probably going to take a safer shot, which would be this one right here. I would shoot that instead of this, which changes me from being able to kill this Aztec versus killing this guy, right? I can no longer, I can still try for it, right? But generally speaking, your accuracy is going to go down. All right. So from here, this is a good number 3 bunker. But you got a really strong zone you can lock off right here. It might even be that you don't even have to like worry about going up the center to do that. So what you could do is you could send, ooh, that's interesting. So maybe you send a guy here, you send your home guy here to lock off the snake zone. The problem is if they cross it, you're kind of screwed. This guy shoots, I don't know, maybe he shoots the snake way as well, freeing this guy's gun up to just run. And then your 2 guys over here do whatever. That could be an option. Again, it could be either the number 2 on the snake side or the home guy, but your Dorito guys are going to be a 2-man operation doing whatever. But that's a pretty good zone to hold up somebody out of the snake. If they get into the snake, this is a tough bunker to be in because you're already getting pressured from the Dorito corner. You're already going to get shot at from this guy, which means you either have to win the gunfight or not look at him and just hold the snake zone. And then when you decided to get out of here, you could probably go low enough. Yeah, that would be it. If the guy gets into the snake and he crosses your zone alive, you could probably just go low and then get up to this wing pretty easily. So, okay, so what if, so maybe a read and react play would be, let's say, as the home guy, you stay here, you shoot this zone, they haven't gotten into it yet, you immediately go here. You'd have to worry about the Dorito guy if you took too long to do this, but if you got here, then you could hold the zone even closer. If you kill him, you can stay there, or you can move up the center even further. Or if he crosses your zone, now you have the option to go here. And once you get here, you can fight him in the snake. Whoops. You can fight him in the snake right here. So from there up to the center even further. Got to definitely worry about the Doritos. I doubt this guy is going to be looking this way. I doubt this guy's going to be looking here. I would suspect this guy would look here every so often. Wedges just don't typically look on the inside of the field. They'll either look up over the top or they'll look just on the outside of the bunker. I don't know why. That's a great zone to hold from, but now you're in a position where you're easily ran down. This inside route is super easy to kill. So just that's going to be a lot of run-throughs. Coming here might be a safe play to trade out with the guy in the brick without, opening yourself up to being shot by somebody else. But anytime there's like a bunch of middle bunkers clustered together, There's just it's always a read and react. It's listening to where paint's coming from, trying to get the intel you need to make a smart decision. And if worst case scenario, if you're not quite sure, but you at least know they're at a certain bunker, you just don't know which way they're looking at, you just got to punch. Got to punch and get the trade. But if you kind of think, if you can kill the guy without trading out, these bunkers right here are your ticket to that. These bunkers right here are your ticket. So, I mean, and even this, you know, going here and shooting this way. But, all right, let's look at the Dorito one then. Actually, we needed to look at the Dorito side as we go up the center. So there's this gap. That's okay. That's not a great gap as the home. That's okay. That's actually not a bad gap. Yeah, that's actually not a bad gap at all. That's the gap you would kill if somebody were to go to this tower right off the break. Just kidding. That's pretty good. Okay, so the home guy has a few options as well. I still think this side is better. I still think this cross shot is better. Or like this dead zone shot is really strong right here. So if you're practicing this layout, this is the shot as the number 2 on the snake side. You should practice a lot as that cross shot. But let's say we go up to this tower or this can looking Dorito, same gap. You've got some pretty good containment on this Aztec, really strong containment on this gap. If you keep them as wide as this zone, if they don't cross this zone, this is a really strong containment you can keep in this bunker. Obviously you've got a heads up battle, right? If they try to challenge you, that's a 50-50. Going up to this bunker, really strong gap. This is wow, what a trap you could set for people. This would be a really, really strong way to punish the snake side, hold the snake side with the Dorito side push. So let's say, for example, you sent a guy here, you sent a guy here, and then you sent a guy here. Okay, and let's say that this guy did that zone control that we just talked about. But let's say they kill this guy. We kill the snake side, so it's a 5v4. And we've got a dude in the snake, and we've got some guy. It doesn't actually matter where this other dude is, but let's say he's somewhere here. What you could honestly do is, if you wanted to assist that snake side push from this position, you could either just shoot this gap, or if you wanted to make forward progress, you could go here and make it. And this is a trap. Like, this is an absolute trap. As long as these two guys are alive, this is a pretty good play. And you would probably do this over just staying here if you knew you were pushing the Dorito side. Because that would be like, oh, we killed a guy and we didn't really mean to. Because what you were hoping for is that you kill one guy here and then you can chop off this zone from this position. Excuse me. And now you've got a 3-man push the Dorito side and a 2-man operation just playing an island over here. And you're able, but if you need to, while you're waiting for that Dorito side to open up, you can hold it from this position really well. So you just have to get intel. I know that's like a cop out, but it is true. Like, you don't want to hold this zone if they're already in the snake. There's no reason to do that. But okay, I mean the challenges from here are really bad, to be honest. But you do have a zone you could control. It'd be kind of scary, but you could control this zone right here. You could just pump paint into that zone without this Aztec being able to do much at all, except coming up over the top. When you run a trap like that, would that player shoot a consistent lane, or would you wait until you see the player? Good question. I think this is a big enough gap you don't have to shoot until you see him. Because like anytime you are kind of at the 40 to 50 yard line and you've got a wide gap, you almost never have to shoot preemptively. And in most cases, when I say setting up a trap, that is like you don't shoot until you see them. You just can't miss, right? And you've got to be aiming for here. So if you see a guy start to run, you're shooting his landing zone. But you could easily, that paint gets there no problem. If I was back here and this was my gap, like from this position, this is not a trap. This is a zone I got to shoot. So there is a cross shot here, which is fine. But this is a really hard thing to do without a lot of intel and without a really intelligent game plan. But a common trapping for corner bunkers having great inside shots is that people take them and it completely stops your progression on that side of the field. I've said this before, I'll say it again. For as long as your widest players hold cross shots, that is as long as you are not usually making progress on that side of the field. Again, usually. Not always the case, but the reason I say that is because if this guy starts to shoot inside and his teammate is behind him here, well, this guy now has to filter in here and then filter here by himself without any assistance from this guy. And that's not only risky, but not fast, right? So unless this guy decides to drop that and shoot heads up and maybe wrap on people that are putting, that are putting people in, this guy can't really do much. So just something to consider. So, all right, let's keep going really quick. I want to get onto the WC layout if there is one. Going over here. There's a zone there. Zone here. We're almost done. We got 4 minutes left, so maybe we won't get to WC. I don't know what the WC layout is. I didn't see it anywhere. Okay, cross. Okay, inside shots. Dorito side, honestly, every time I walk out D side now, it's always just the same. It's wrap and go. Can you see your mirror? Yes or no. If you can't get low, wrap on the guy that would stop you, shoot him and go. Right? That's almost always the Dorito side. I think it just dropped today. Yeah, I tried to search for, I typed WCPPL, but I didn't see it. So I'm not sure what that's about. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, this is a pretty straightforward Dorito. The biggest survivability problem is going to be this gap right here. This gap is going to be hard to survive against good teams. I think I just saw it 30 seconds ago or so. Really? Wow. So, otherwise, it's very straightforward. Shoot the guy in front of you, put him in, go. If you can't see the guy in front of you, wrap, shoot the guy behind him. Once you get him to flinch, go. And check off your middle, right? Really, the middle guy that you would have to worry about is this Dorito dude right here. This guy right here is a big problem. That would be hard to check off without committing to the move. It's not very... I mean, I guess the other problem is going to be this dude. This dude right here. So you might have a pretty slow point. If you don't get out of this... I would say that if you don't get out of this bunker after the first 10 seconds of the point, like let's say you run and dive and you make it here, and you stand up and you immediately challenge this inside guy wherever he is. If you get him to flinch, you're good to launch. But if you get stopped here and it's taking you 10 seconds to get out, you now have a big problem where this guy's a problem and this guy's a problem, I would say. You sent the link? Did you send it in Facebook or in Discord? 1 second. Great interview. Not super familiar with him, but I really enjoyed it. Thanks. Absolutely, Gabe. Thank you. It must be in Facebook. Hold on. Wait, where did you send the link? I'm not seeing it. Anyway. Okay. I can probably search it. If it just dropped, I can get it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I can't really like take the time to formulate like super detailed game plans, but because honestly, whatever I say, if you've got time to practice in the layout, it's going to change. I think the most useful thing I can offer is people who are playing on blind layouts, like in the case of the WC. But yeah, just be aware that if this cross shot is really strong and this shot is not. So that means that if you want to get a really strong shot on the Dorito side, have this guy shoot that and then have whatever other guy you want, whether it's the home or the can, shoot the other way. Then do a pretty standard breakout and filter up the middle quickly. That's what I would say. I sent the link 3 lines above. In the chat? I'm not seeing the link in the chat. I'm not sure why. But let me just go to the guns up. WC if I can. Ron, can you just link it in Facebook? That might be the easiest. Unless you're saying you have already. 1 sec. No, I'm not seeing it there. I'm not seeing it in Discord. Weird. Weird. Maybe I should just check Facebook and see. WCPPL. If it's just like a image, it's not going to be very fun to walk. Yeah, I'm not seeing it, guys. If you can link it to me, I'll look at it real quick, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it even on their Facebook page. You think it's just an image? Ah, see that, but even still, like I'm at the WCPPL group. Recent media. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Nope. Anybody? Discord? Anybody? Well, we might be hanging dry. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview. Let me know if you're in the Discord server, which if you're not, you're wrong. Get into the Discord server if you're not already. Link is in the description of this live stream and will be in the video when we're done. But if there's somebody you want me to interview next, let me know. The live streams are not meant to just be interviews. I usually try to space them out as much as I can, but I can't find it now, but I saw it 30 minutes ago. Really? Yeah, I can't find it either. Maybe. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Layout drop. Why? I was literally on WCPPL's website. I'm not sure why. Okay, cool. We'll just look at it, I guess, because we can't see the guns up yet. Okay, interesting. True tape with can corners. That's brutal. Those can corners are so crappy. Wow, that's really crappy. So that's interesting. I mean, my very immediate impression is this cross shot that either of these cans can shoot on each other on the inside of the field. That shot absolutely exists. So be aware of that. I'll make this quick because we're already past time. Be aware of this cross shot on the inside. Don't get trapped with it. Okay, don't stay on it too long. It's a true tape on the snake side, so if you don't hold the tape, they're gonna make progress on you, and that it is what it is. As is true for classic WCPPL, they don't have a true back center, which means that if you've not seen my breakout and game plans video, you should absolutely watch that, because the thing you need to know is just which side the home guy is stacking on. So if he decides to take a crouch and shoot from here in this dead zone, that's absolutely a shot that you can just retaliate with. You can, when you're running out to the corner, or really even one of these two Aztecs, you can shoot back at that guy in the dead zone. Yeah, they just love cross shots. But just be aware that if you see 3 stacking on snake side, 3 stacking on Dorito side, you know where the home guy's going, and that automatically means that somebody has to go deep unless they double stack, which is common in WCPPL for those who've played it before. So sometimes if teams are having a hard time surviving, and especially which division, depending on which division you're playing, this might be the case. But if you see the home guy stacking, they either have to kick a guy out wide and risk his body, or they double stack the home, in the case of whichever side they're on, right? So it could be that this guy's here shooting a cross shot, this guy's here shooting a cross shot as well, but then they kick out this other guy to run to the corner, or make take a risk play up to here. This gap is pretty big, it looks like, but I'm not sure who could see him. It might be just a blind shot over the top and a cross shot. It's almost always a cross shot, but I think you might be too high if you try to shoot straight up. If you try to go out to the Aztec and shoot towards this gap on the Dorito, I think it's probably too high for a guy that would be running low and diving at this point. So look for the cross shot in this dead zone back here to shoot the Dorito side. You could probably have a guy punch up the center and get a shot there, but again, the closer you get to these bricks, the harder it is to shoot over them. Running to the corner would be a possibility, but that's like such a hard shot to shoot a guy running the exact opposite corner as you are, essentially. It's an interesting layout. It looks like this little juice box will be the God Bunker filtering into the snake, and it's a true, it's a gun battle snake. I suspect that these two towers can drop shots onto each other, but the nice thing is they can blind each other out, which means snake guys are going to have a big problem with... This is a big puzzle to be solved for the front guys, and really in the heads-up battle on the snake side. These 3 bunkers right here is going to be a lot of, like, both sides are posting up on each other's snake guys, and then as soon as they hear that, they're going to try and run each other down. You've obviously got the cross shot here. Everything's a cross, it looks like. The Dorito's got a pretty good lane, pretty wide open zone to shoot the snake. So if you pull up short on the snake, or if they pull up short on the snake and you get to this Dorito, shooting cross is probably not a bad idea for a second. One thing I don't like about WCPPL layouts much is that they always have big gaps from the center when you bump up every single Dorito or snake. So, like... Look at this lane. You can't really see it, but like this lane right here, I guess you kind of have to back off this brick. But this gap right here from the Dorito 1 or even this little like Dorito baby is massive from like essentially the same zone. I guess maybe not. If you're hugging this brick, you might not be able to see that. But anyway, my point is just like the WCPPL loves doing that. They love having they love having non-true back centers, and then they love having big gaps you got to run through as the front guy where the centers can kill you very easily. Which is, I feel like is not always true. And they also like both sides of the field seeing each other at all times. That's something they also really like. This gap is really strong, super strong, from the Dorito side wedge to the snake side gap. You'd have to be shooting paint into that zone, otherwise you'd be too late if you just shot it as a reaction. But I mean, like, look at this. If you sent 3 people snake side and those other 2 snake people did whatever, but you got one guy up here at this wedge looking inside, this zone right here is wide open. This is a huge trap you could set, no problem, to shoot somebody running to this can or out to any of these 2 Doritos. Like, if they don't break out past this Aztec or past this tower, this is a massive zone that you can be locked off really easily. Even shorter than that, you could go to this center juice box and shoot. It's a bit harder and a smaller of a zone, but you could go here and shoot this gap as well. So, I don't know. Without the actual guns up, like, layout to walk, it's hard to prove anything. Excuse me. I think the layout looks fun. I think it would be a fun layout to play, but I just am so over the non-true back centers. I don't know what is their obsession with not having that. I don't know if they just think it's more fun because people are having to move off the break. Oh, those are standing. That's actually really interesting. I didn't pick up on that. Those are standing up, so you can't shoot over it. So the gap, so they could play this dead zone, but that would force either of these Aztecs to shoot back at the home, which is interesting. So I don't know. I think that's actually kind of a fun back center. So I take back what I said. All right, that's it, guys. We are 10 minutes over time. Thank you so much for watching. Be on the lookout for my video to drop tomorrow. And yeah, join the Discord server. Like and subscribe. You guys know the drill. Consider becoming a supporter of the channel if you enjoy the content. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye.